Hi guys! Today we continue with our series about cornering on a bike. We already discussed how to pick a better line through a corner and how we can use our vision to our benefit. In this video we will finally see how we can actually make those wonderful lines come true, what makes our bike turn from a physics standpoint, what we should do to use the motorcycle design to our advantage and make our cornering smooth, safe and confident. Plus, we will watch some mistakes we should avoid in order to not become another entry for a list of casualties on the road. Just in case you are new to this channel, my name is Andrei Bodrov, and I am your new favorite speech-impaired motorcycle instructor and author of the King of the Road course for advanced riders, which you can check out using the link below this video. Let's see what happens when we are going through a corner on our bike. As we can see, when we are cornering, our motorcycle always leans to some degree. And the more we lean our bike, the tighter our corner becomes. So, what's happening? When we have our bike leaned like this, we have several forces which act on our bike. We have the gravity force, which acts on our center of gravity here. Then we have the normal force, which is equal to gravity force, but in the opposite direction. It acts on our tire contact patch. Those two forces are not in one line with each other, so they make a couple, which in turn produces the rotational motion, which causes our bike to tip over. Luckily, we have another couple of forces which prevents this. They are centrifugal force, which acts upon our center of gravity, and the centripetal force in our contact patch. Now, those two couples neatly cancel each other out, and our bike remains stable during cornering and doesn't fall down. Out of those four forces, we are especially interested in this lateral force in our contact patch. If we look at our bike from above, we'll see that it is our centripetal force, which makes our bike go on a curve instead of a straight line. The bigger this force, the tighter our curve will be. And to make this force bigger, we have to lean our bike more. But how much can we lean our bike? This lateral force here, which is being created in our contact patch as a product of friction between our tire and the pavement, it is finite. It can't be more than a certain value. At some point, if we lean our bike too much, we will exceed this certain value, our tire will break traction and skid, and we will end up lying on the floor. So, how much can we lean before it happens? It depends mostly on how much traction we can squeeze out of our tires and pavement. In the best circumstances on dry, clean, warm asphalt with the best possible tires like on MotoGP or World Superbike motorcycles, a rider can exceed 1.5 or 1.6 g of lateral acceleration. With this information, we can roughly estimate the lean angle of the bike using trigonometry. The gravity, our bike, and our centripetal acceleration produce a triangle. This angle here, which we are interested in, is equal to this angle, which we can find using the ratio between the legs of the triangle, the tangent. Our tangent here equals 1.6, which means our angle is around 58 degrees. Voila! Now we can estimate our maximum lean angle by just plugging in our top lateral acceleration, produced by our tires. In reality, we will be a few degrees off, and I'll explain why in a minute, but it's close enough for our purposes. If instead of state-of-the-art racing slicks, we look at the more common road tires, their top lateral acceleration will be in a ballpark of 1, maybe 1.1 g. If we assume it is 1 g, our maximum lean angle will be somewhere around 45 degrees. Great! Now that we have a sound, plausible theory of how much we can lean our bike, let's have some practice too. For that, we will use one of the exercises from our King of the Road advanced course. It is pretty straightforward. We make a circle around 40 feet in diameter, or even more as long as the parking lot allows it. Then we start doing this circle on our bike, gradually riding faster and faster and faster, and leaning more and more. If we are careful enough and increase our speed little by little, eventually we will feel like our bike reached the maximum traction and one of our tires starts to skid. If we reach this critical lean angle very slowly, our bike will not fall down suddenly. The tire starts to skid in a relatively predictable manner, and we will have enough time to recover the bike. Eventually, we will find out the maximum lean angle for our bike when it is still stable. As you can see, in real life, the lean angle happens to be a bit more than what we thought using our trigonometry. That happens because in our calculations we haven't taken into consideration the width of our tires. If we lean our bike 45 degrees, because of the width and the profile of the tire, we can see that the actual angle, if we draw the line between center of mass and center of contact patch, is shallower. And this angle is actually the one that matters. If we make it 45 degrees, like we calculated, the lean angle value of the bike itself will be a few degrees bigger. And the wider the tire, the bigger will be this difference, which is why the bikes with wider tires have to lean further to go through the same corner at the same speed. This fact is something to consider if we want to modify our bike by installing wider tires, especially in case of cruiser-style bikes, which have limited lean angle because of low-hanging floorboards, exhausts and our parts. When installing wider tires, even though we still have the same lean angle of the bike itself, we will have less lateral force from the tires, so we will lose some cornering ability. Usually, the stock tire size, which a manufacturer puts on their bike, and a stock tire pressure, offers a good balance between the contact patch size, grip, durability of the tire, and its thermal stability, which allows us to lean our bike confidently pretty far, in most cases until it starts to scrape its foot pegs.
Fuck me, that was fast.
Talking about foot pegs. There are some bikes out there, like cruiser bikes or some touring models, which can't lean a lot, not because they run out of traction, but simply because they start scraping their mufflers, frames and floorboards. It's not really a huge problem for normal riding on the street, because they still have more than enough lean angle to produce a decent cornering force. But with those bikes, we have to get used to their geometrical leaning limit, so to speak, and not exceed it. Because once this kind of bike is being leaned to its limit, if we proceed leaning it even more, the part which we are scraping becomes a pivot point, and we have a good chance of levering the front wheel into air, which pretty much automatically becomes a low side. Great! We discussed how much we can lean our bike and even watched a practical exercise. But we are still missing one very important thing. How exactly are we supposed to lean it? Just lean it, bro, won't cut it. We have to have a clear procedure to get consistent and fully predictable results. Motorcycle dynamics during cornering is an incredibly complex subject, which involves 1001 variables like steering geometry, wheelbase, tire profile, tire pressure, tire wear, center of mass, body position, suspension settings, gyroscopic forces, acceleration and deceleration, alignment of planets and retrograde Mercury. No wonder the King of the Road course takes 9 whole weeks and more than 40 exercises and could not be crammed into one how to ride a motorcycle video. But we still have a 100% reliable way to lean our motorcycle, which works greatly on each and every bike out there, regardless of the style in which we ride it. It is called countersteering. Before we move on to it, let me tell you a couple of words about our sponsor, Ultramax Cell, the brand behind those very nice high-tech base layers you can often see me wearing while riding. You guys asked me about them, and I truly believe they are one of the best options for motorcycle riders. And this isn't just because they sponsor me, it's my honest opinion. What makes me think so? It all boils down to the material. A cutting-edge polypropylene fiber with a 3-dimensional structure. This design creates a compression effect, ensuring the fabric fits snugly to our body, allowing the thermal underwear to perform efficiently across its entire surface. More importantly, this 3D honeycomb structure increases the overall surface area of the material, enabling it to wick moisture away from our skin and evaporate it swiftly. In hot weather, with ventilated gear on top, this results in enhanced evaporative cooling. On the other hand, in cold conditions, the honeycombs trap more air around our body, keeping us warm. Compared to common thermal clothing, Ultramax Cell is like upgrading to said common thermal clothing from basic cotton t-shirts. It is a significant improvement and I highly recommend it. I'll include an Amazon link in the description below this video along with their direct contact information. Depending on your country, because of different shipping, you might get a better deal by contacting them directly. Back to the countersteering. You've probably already heard about it. In beginner courses, countersteering is often described as push left to go left, push right to go right. While this is correct, it is also oversimplified. Another common explanation is you have to turn your handlebars into the opposite direction to turn your bike. The problem with such explanations is that they often create a lot of confusion. Why exactly does the bike go into the opposite direction? Does it always work like that? And why should I use this counter-steering when I can just turn where I want to go? These are legitimate questions. To make things even more confusing, some courses say this counter-steering only works above some speed, let's say 40 miles per hour, and under 40 miles per hour it's direct steering. And the term counter-steering itself naturally implies that there is some kind of direct steering as an alternative, which further adds to the confusion. Since on this channel we are aspiring to become advanced riders and not just beginners, let's avoid oversimplifications and take some time to understand what's going on with countersteering and how we can fully utilize it for our benefit. Let's start with the basics, with the question: why does our bike stay upright when it moves? It only has two wheels, which doesn't seem very stable at first glance. Yet when we are moving, we don't fall somehow. A lot of people think it's due to the gyroscopic forces produced by the spinning wheels of the bike. I thought this for a long time too, but later found out that is not entirely true. While gyroscopic forces do have an impact, especially at higher speeds, the majority of our bike's stability comes from its steering geometry properties like caster angle, rake, offset and trail. These properties vary across different bikes to achieve specific steering behaviors, but, despite that, all motorcycles share some key similarities. On all bikes, the fork and steering column are not perpendicular to the ground, they are always at an angle. If we draw an imaginary line through the steering column and find where it intersects the road, the center of our contact patch will always be behind this point. This distance is called trail, and while it may vary in length on different bikes, the center of the contact patch will always be behind this point. This causes the front wheel to automatically turn in the direction of the lean angle, preventing the bike from falling when it's moving forward. This is why we sometimes see riderless bikes correct themselves and continue moving forward until they run out of speed or hit an obstacle. The front wheel's self-correcting feature makes this possible. We can even perform a couple of experiments to see this effect in action for ourselves. For example, we can quite easily move our bike forward without touching the handlebars. Obviously, at this speed there are no noticeable gyroscopic forces, so we can cast them aside. If, however, we try to move the bike backwards, we will notice it is much harder to keep it upright, because now the steering geometry is reversed. In case you don't favor physical effort too much, try this with the bicycle. You'll see it is stable when moving forward, but not when moving backward, despite having the same initial speed and rotating mass in their wheels. Therefore, we can clearly see that gyroscopic forces don't have a dominant role in the stability of our bike. It stays upright primarily because of the steering geometry, which provides a stabilizing self-steering effect. That's the first important thing we should know. Now let's move on to the second one. We've already seen that the front wheel automatically turns into the direction of the motorcycle lean angle. For each particular speed value, the more the lean angle, the more the handlebars turn themselves. We can perform a simple experiment to see this. Notice how when the bike is more vertical, the front wheel is straighter. As we force the bike to lean more, the wheel turns more too. Again, at this example, you can see I am not touching the handlebars, they steer themselves. But that's only half of the equation. Speed also affects how much the front wheel turns itself. We can notice that when bike turns at slow speed, the front wheel turns quite a lot, sometimes even to a full lock. On the other hand, when our motorcycle corners at high speed, the handlebars are almost straight, their turn angle is hardly visible. We can use all this to our advantage. By changing our speed, we can also change the turning radius. If we gradually slow down, the front wheel will automatically turn more, resulting in a tighter turn. If we gradually accelerate, we'll have a larger turning radius. Here I'm doing it as a demonstration on a small speed, because this process is quite obvious when we go slower, since we can clearly see how much the front wheel turns. At higher speed, it works too, but it is not so easy to spot because our handlebars don't seemingly turn too much, and we have to make a contraption like this to see the steering angle, like Keith Code did in his film. As an experiment to further prove these self-steering properties, we can keep the handlebars in a full lock position just by carefully operating the rear brake to maintain the proper speed. Again, the front wheel does the work by itself, without any input on the handlebars from us. As we can see, the front wheel does a lot of the steering work on its own. All we need to do is change the speed and the lean angle as needed, and the steering will take care of the rest. And here comes the whole point of the handlebars on our bike. In the first experiment, we changed the bike lean angle by running around and pulling the tail down, which is a way to do it, but it's a rather stupid way. Instead, we can use handlebars to change the motorcycle's lean angle. Let's see how it works. If we let go of the handlebars and sit straight, the bike will also go straight. But what happens if we turn the handlebars? Let's try it. Now, as I go straight, I turn the handlebars to the right. The front wheel and the front end of the bike start to go right. But since the bike is not a car and doesn't have a second pair of wheels on the left side to support it, it starts to tip to the left. If I keep the handlebars turned to the right, the bike will soon end up lying on its left side. So after a very brief time, I let go of the handlebars and let them turn to the left. From our previous experiments, we already know that they turn just enough to stabilize the bike and prevent it from falling down. The initial turning of the handlebars, which then causes the bike to lose balance briefly and tip to the left, is what we call countersteering. It's called countersteering because it initiates the lean of the bike in the opposite direction. If we turn the handlebars left, we start leaning right. If we turn the handlebars right, we start leaning left. Countersteering is a brief steering input we make on the handlebars to change the bike's lean angle. Many people are confused, thinking countersteering means the bike turns with the front wheel facing the opposite direction, like in a drift. But that's not the case. Countersteering on motorcycles refers simply to an input which changes the lean angle. It's a steering technique dictated by the motorcycle's design. Whenever we turn the handlebars from their current balance point, the bike will change its lean angle in the opposite direction until we reduce pressure and let the front wheel stabilize the bike at the new lean angle. This technique works not only when we are going straight. If we are doing a left-hand turn, we can apply countersteering to lean more by pushing the left handlebar forward, temporarily making the wheel straighter and the bike lean more. To make the bike more vertical, we briefly push the right grip and the bike stands up. Countersteering is an incredibly useful and universal technique. We can apply it quickly to change the lean angle rapidly, or slowly, which will result in a gentle lean. It works at high and low speeds. On big heavy bikes, on small light ones, we can initiate and adjust the lean angle during a turn, flip the bike from side to side quickly or slowly. Countersteering allows us to do everything. So now, with all this new information, let's watch a couple of examples where people crashed their bike because of poor understanding of countersteering and because of lack of the ability to lean their bike. The first one is an old video, but it is still one of the best examples of poor understanding of countersteering. Its name itself even suggests it. This rider here goes through a curvy road and at some point he spots an oncoming fire engine. And for seemingly no reason, just goes straight into it. By the way, as far as I know, somehow this rider survived this head-on collision with no permanent damage. Probably he's still on his mission to find Sarah Connor. Or Sarah Corner. Also, considering two previous videos from this series, in the comment section you can try and write what else this rider did wrong besides his countersteering. Regarding countersteering, as soon as he notices the fire truck, look what he tries to do. He wants to go right to clear the oncoming truck, so he repetitively tries to turn his handlebars right, not knowing how motorcycle steering works. Instead of leaning more, this makes the bike stand up each time he tries to steer to the right. To no surprise, this makes the bike go right into the truck. Second example will be our old buddy from the first video. Remember, we already saw him when we discussed cornering lines. He will also serve as a good example for lean angle too. As we can see, he doesn't go terribly fast here, and if he would have just a little more confidence in leaning his bike, he would have made this turn easily, with zero problems, even with suboptimal line through the corner. Interestingly, that's not unique to just this case. In most crash videos, we can see not only one particular mistake. Usually it's a combination of two or even more. Like here, this rider wouldn't go wide if he chose a correct line, or would ride slower, or could brake mid-corner properly. If he would have done even just one of those things right, he would have probably recovered the situation. Or in this example here, our guy initially puts himself into the wrong position by overtaking the SUV. Because he overtakes just before the corner, his speed is too high on the corner entry. He can't lean into the turn enough, and he doesn't know how to slow down properly. So he just goes pretty much straight into the barrier. If he has done either of those things right, he would not have the vulture party down in the comments. Alright, I think that's definitely enough for today. Thank you for watching this video, check out our courses to become a better rider and have a far better chances on the road. Ride safely and have a wonderful day. Bye!